everyone. Welcome to our October 6th Township Committee meeting. We are going to ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'm also going to ask at the end of the Pledge of Allegiance if we would have a moment of silence for those who were killed in Oregon. Behind you guys. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You can have a moment of silence for those who were killed. Thank you very much. Who's this? That was weird. Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2015 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2014, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Mr. Brownlee. Mrs. Larrier. Here. Ms. Leventhal. Here. Mr. Ryan. Mayor DeLuca.
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231 Public Laws of 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires all meetings of public bodies be open to the public, and whereas Section 7 provides that the governing body has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public in any meeting, and whereas desire this governing body to comply with the provision of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be resolved by the Township Committee, Township of Maplewood, does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in the deliberations of the governing body by the public, and except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observations of the actions and discussions of the governing body at all its regular and special meetings. So moved.
Second.
Mr. Larrier.
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal.
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Unfortunately, Mr. Ryan and Mr. Brownlee could not be here tonight, so we almost canceled it, but we knew you were all coming, so the rest of us showed up. But we have brought in our flanks, so we're a little closer than normal.
Please.
But so today we have 4 proclamations which we're going to be issuing, and then we have the pleasure of adopting resolutions in which we're going to be appointing a lieutenant in the police auxiliary, a lieutenant in the police department, and a sergeant in the police department. After that, I'm sure none of you want to stay. You probably have a place to go have a party. Is that right? Yeah, that's what I thought. You can always let us know before you leave where that is. Then we're going to have our Board of Health meeting, and we have 2 ordinances on introduction. Yes, 2 ordinances on introduction. One is to require applicants for a liquor license on a place-to-place transfer to give adjoining property owners within 200 feet notice. And the second is to amend the zoning and redevelopment regulations to allow 2 principal uses in a lot for a convenience store with a fueling station. We then will have a presentation from Paul Greigel, our redevelopment consultant and planner, and we will discuss an emergency resolution for the purchase of an ambulance. We have 6 discussion items: a cell tower, Jitney and parking fees, Springfield Avenue zoning changes, the Village Alliance request for temporary weather door entrances, a loading zone in Rickleton parking lot, and demolition of 4 Mountain Avenue. So we'll be talking about that. And then we have 16 resolutions which we'll vote all at one time in a consent. And they have to do with minutes of meetings, purchases of different supplies and equipment, some fund balance canceling. We have a couple of retirements, and we do accumulated severance liabilities for those. And then we also got a grant to pay Van Ness Terrace, and we will include that in the budget. And we'll have our public comment, second public comment. We'll have administrative reports and reports from elected officials. I failed to say that after the proclamations, we'll have our first public comment, but I think what we will do is we'll move ahead and do the resolutions on the appointments and then do the public comment, just so folks don't have to stick around. So with that, I'm going to, first, before I say anything else, I want to thank all of you who voted online to make Maplewood's downtown the best downtown in New Jersey. We won. We were up against Summit, and we beat them, and then they threw us against Princeton, and we beat them. Then Montclair came along, and we whopped them. I was just with somebody from the deputy mayor, and he said, congratulations. And then finally, we had to go against Morristown, and we beat them. And the people from New Jersey Monthly, this was a contest they ran, they told us from the very first week, it was 4 weeks of consecutive voting, they said we ran away with it. They said they knew the first week that we were going to win just because of the intensity of the vote from Maplewood folks. So you should congratulate yourselves. Thank you very much. Okay, up is the Fire Prevention Week, and I'm going to ask Mrs. Larrier if she would do that. And we have some firefighters here. We do. We can come on up.
Wow, we have lots of firemen. Wonderful. I hope I'm not out of line, but I'm so glad no one was hurt the other day. Did well in that. Whereas fire is a serious public safety concern, both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire. And whereas home fires kill 22,755 people in the United States in 2013, according to the National Fire Protection Association, and fire departments in the United States responded to lots of home fires. And whereas working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires in half, whereas 3 out of 5 home fire deaths result from fires in properties without working smoke alarms, whereas in 1/5 of all homes with smoke alarms, none were working, and whereas when smoke alarms should have operated but did not do so, it was usually because batteries were missing, disconnected, or dead, and whereas half of home fire deaths result from fires reported at night between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. when most people are asleep. Whereas the 2015 Fire Prevention Week theme, "Hear the beep where you sleep," every bedroom needs a working smoke alarm, effectively serves to remind us that we need working smoke alarms to give us the time to get out safely. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Victor DeLuca, Mayor of the Township of Maplewood, on behalf of the Maplewood Township Committee, does hereby proclaim October 4th through 10th, 2015, as Fire Prevention Week throughout the Township of Maplewood. Thank you. I will ask. Were there smoke alarms
Yes.
working?
Yes.
Connected batteries and all?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you.
Quick public service announcement. When you change your clocks in a couple of weeks, please change your batteries and your smoke detectors. Thanks.
Is Colleen McDonald here? Colleen McDonald? Come on up. And anyone else from Our Lady of Sorrows? Yes? Okay. Great. Frank, Colleen and Frank. Great. Great. Hi, how you doing? Okay, we have a proclamation on the 125th anniversary of Our Lady of Sorrows Church and School. Whereas the cornerstone of the first church of Our Lady of Sorrows was laid Sunday, December 21st, 1888, and the first church was dedicated in September 1889. It was a frame structure, and the new church was located at the corner of Academy and 4th Street. And whereas the Church of Our Lady of Sorrows owes its history to the many pastors who have guided the church and its school through over 100 years of existence, and whereas the participation of the church with Habitat for Humanity, the Interfaith Hospitality for the Homeless, shows its deep concern for the homeless, and whereas the OLS Food Pantry helps dozens of families in our community put food on the tables, and whereas Our Lady of Sorrows Church continues today to be an important part of the communities of Maplewood and South Orange, and whereas when Pope Francis was here, he called me up and said, "Congratulations." That's a pretty good whereas, right? Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Victor DeLuca, Mayor of the Township of Maplewood, on behalf of the Maplewood Township Committee, do hereby congratulate Our Lady of Sorrows Church and School on their 125th anniversary and wish them continued success in their future endeavors. Congratulations. You want to be in it? Want to say something? Sure.
Just want to say thank you very much to Maplewood for this lovely proclamation.
Great. Thank you. Right. Ms. Leventhal has a couple of proclamations. Believe it or not, this is not all we do.
I'd like to ask Sandra Bartlett, our Director of Welfare, and Marlo Tabron, who is the coordinator for the Domestic Violence Response Team for Maplewood and South Orange. Hello. It's good to meet you. Hi. So this proclamation is for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas domestic violence crimes, ranging in severity from simple assault to homicide, occur with alarming frequency, and whereas thousands of children witness domestic violence against a caregiving parent each year, putting them at risk for long-term physical and mental health problems and increasing the likelihood that they will become perpetrators or victims of domestic violence themselves. Whereas the effects of domestic violence reach far beyond its victims and perpetrators, causing disruption in our schools, places of work, and neighborhoods. Whereas as individuals and as a community, we need to increase our capacity to deal with domestic violence by supporting domestic violence victims in their quest for safety and dignity and holding perpetrators accountable for the behavior. And whereas domestic violence and abuse can happen to anyone, regardless of gender, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, income, or other factors. And whereas domestic violence is the third leading cause of homelessness among families, according to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, and whereas domestic violence victims face high rates of depression, sleep disturbances, anxiety, flashbacks, and other emotional distress. And whereas domestic violence costs more than $37 billion a year in law enforcement involvement, legal work, medical and mental health treatment, and lost productivity in companies. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Victor DeLuca, Mayor of the Township of Maplewood, on behalf of the Maplewood Township Committee, does hereby proclaim October 2015 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the Township of Maplewood. I'd just like to give a brief background here. Maplewood and South Orange after us have had a domestic violence team for almost 20 years. This is a group of volunteers who are trained under state regulations with many hours, many hours of training. When we started this program, we had something like 25 volunteers start up. We do this in conjunction with the police department and with our welfare department. Anybody interested in volunteering, just give a call and ask for our welfare director. And anyone who is in a situation that they feel they would like some counseling, some direction, some advice, they can call the police department and a volunteer can be called in. You don't have to wait until you're in the middle of a crisis. So we have volunteers that are available to speak with you at other times too. So I'd like to give this to you. Would you like to say a couple of words? Yes, okay.
On behalf of the South Orange Maplewood Domestic Violence Response Team, we thank you for this proclamation. And I also would like to thank Sergeant Kish and Sergeant Nadio, who are our liaison. They are very supportive and they continue to give us the guidance that we need to follow the laws to keep this thing going. We're always looking for volunteers, as Ms. Leventhal said, and we've had pamphlets passed out, brochures passed out, so you can see the information on there. I would also like to thank Sandra Bartlett, because without her, she made sure that we had a budget to get these brochures made and whatever handouts that we needed to get the information out to these victims of domestic violence. So again, thank you again. Thank you so much.
I just want to present these flowers to Ms. Taborn because she is such a wonderful person. She's dedicated to the team. And we really need volunteers because when no one's on the schedule, they call her and she responds. And if I'm happy because if she doesn't do it, then they're going to call me at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I'm very grateful for her diligence and thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm glad so many of our first responders are here to hear about this tonight too, and to have them acknowledged for their work. I also have a proclamation for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I'm sure there are people affected by breast cancer themselves here or their families or close friends. Anybody wants to come up and join me, they're welcome to. Otherwise, I'll just read it. Whereas, except for skin cancers, breast cancer is the most common cancer among women in the United States, accounting for nearly 29% of newly diagnosed cancers. And whereas an estimated 231,840 new cases of invasive breast cancer are expected to occur among women in the United States during this year. Whereas during 2006 to 2010, the median age at the time of breast cancer diagnosis in the United States was 61 years. Whereas African American women in the United States are less likely to be diagnosed with small tumors and more likely to be diagnosed with larger tumors than white women. And whereas breast cancer is the most common cause of cancer death for women 40 to 59 years of age in the United States. Whereas recent studies suggest that many women in the United States are getting their first mammogram later than is recommended. Not having mammograms at recommended intervals or not receiving appropriate and timely follow-up of positive screening results. This may lead to more advanced tumor size and the advanced stage of cancer at diagnosis time. Whereas only 50.8% of women 40 and older in the United States reported having a mammogram last year. That's the women that are of age to have mammograms. Whereas in the United States, the 5-year relative survival rate is lower among women with breast cancer before age 40. The survival rate is 85%. Than those diagnosed at age 40 and older, that's 90%. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Mayor Victor DeLuca of the Township of Maplewood, on behalf of the Maplewood Township Committee, does hereby declare October 2015 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in the Township of Maplewood. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Carrera, we have an announcement we want to make about our live streaming. I'm actually watching us on my phone at the same time I'm up here, which is kind of weird, but tell us about that.
Yeah, just wanted to share with everyone watching at home and all the residents here present tonight that starting tonight we will be live broadcasting the Township Committee meetings online on the Township's YouTube channel. So if you can't make it, if you can't watch it on television, it'll be live broadcast. You can watch the recording at a later date. Every night there's a meeting, there'll be a link on the homepage of the website via newsflash letting you know where to go on your computer. Tablets, smartphones, you name it, you can watch it there now.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, we're going to get to what most of you are here for, the resolutions of appointments. Ms. Fritzen.
Mayor, Resolution 190-15 is a resolution appointing Lieutenant Joseph Yasenda to captain of the Maplewood Police Auxiliary. Whereas the position of captain in the Police Department Auxiliary of Maplewood has become vacant, and whereas it's been determined that Lieutenant Joseph Yasenda is qualified for the position, now therefore be resolved by the Township Committee, the Township of Maplewood, County of Essex, State of New Jersey, that Lieutenant Joseph Yasenda being is hereby appointed to the position of captain in the Maplewood Police Auxiliary in the Township of Maplewood, effective October 6, 2015.
We get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Congratulations.
I, Joseph Yasenda,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will
support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New Jersey,
of the State of New Jersey,
that I will bear
true faith
and allegiance
and allegiance
to the governments established
to the governments established
in this state
in this state
and the United States,
and the United States,
and under the authority of the people,
and under the authority of the people,
that I will faithfully,
impartially, and justly
perform all the duties of the office of captain in the Maplewood Police Auxiliary,
in the Maplewood Police Auxiliary,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations, Captain.
I usually don't speak, but I would like to say I've been on the Maplewood Police Auxiliary for 25 years, and I've enjoyed assisting the Township Police Department, and I thank Chief Semino and Auxiliary Chief Kelly for this opportunity as captain, and I will do the best of my ability out there on patrol. Thank you, folks.
You guys remember, you got to sign before you leave. Okay, we have another resolution.
Mr. Mayor, resolution number 183-15.
Are you saying no, no, no?
No, no, no.
She's saying yo, 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 okay.
A resolution appointing Sergeant Kevin Peter Kish to Lieutenant of the Maplewood Police Department. Whereas the position of Lieutenant in the Police Department of Maplewood has become vacant, and whereas the Township Committee of the Township of Maplewood has conducted interviews to fill the position of Lieutenant in the Police Department, and whereas it's been determined that Sergeant Kevin Peter Kish is qualified for the position, now therefore be resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Maplewood, County of Essex, State of New Jersey, that Sergeant Kevin Peter Kish be and is hereby appointed to the position of Lieutenant in the Maplewood Police Department in the Township of Maplewood, effective October 12th, 2015.
Larry, can we get a motion?
Moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, congratulations.
I, Kevin Kish,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will
that I will
support the Constitution
support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New Jersey,
of the State of New Jersey,
and I will bear
and I will bear
true faith
true faith
and allegiance
and allegiance
to the government established
to the governments established
in this state
in this state
and the United States,
in the United States
and under the authority
and under the authority
of the people,
of the people,
that I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly
and justly
perform all the duties
perform all the duties
of the office of
of the office of
Lieutenant
Lieutenant
in the Maplewood Police Department
in the Maplewood Police Department
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations, Lieutenant.
I tend to be wordy, so I will try not to. Thank you all. Thank you, my friends and family, people that have traveled far, far distances. My mom and her friend Jerry all the way from Cooperstown, New York. My Uncle Bob from Hunterdon County, who hasn't been in Maplewood Town Hall since he was in the 4th grade. Anyway, I just want to thank you all, thank the Township Committee for having the faith in me to assume this position. I want to thank Liz Fritzen for swearing us in. Liz has probably sworn in more cops and firemen than she could ever remember, but you and your office and your staff and everybody here at Town Hall serve us so well in our personal lives. So thank you for that. I don't know. I want to thank my wife, Melanie, for being supportive and loving. My daughter, Carmela, the same. Clara, you all probably have heard, she's been providing harmony and commentary throughout the entire ceremony. But thank you all former Maplewood police officers, all former supervisors, partners, roommates. Thank you all, friends from kindergarten to Seth Boyden School. I am very proud and honored to assume this position. That's all. Thank you very much.
Okay, Ms. Fritzen, we have another resolution.
Mr. Mayor, resolution number 184-15, a resolution appointing Detective Scott Thomas Reeves to Sergeant, the Maplewood Police Department. Whereas the position of Sergeant in the Police Department of Maplewood has become vacant, and whereas the Township Committee of the Township of Maplewood has conducted interviews to fill the position of Sergeant in the Police Department, and whereas it's been determined that Detective Scott Thomas Reeves is qualified for the position, now therefore be resolved by the Township Committee, Township of Maplewood, County of Essex, State of New Jersey, that Detective Scott Thomas Reeves being is hereby appointed to the position of Sergeant in the Maplewood Police Department, in the Township of Maplewood, effective October 12th, 2015.
Get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Congratulations.
I
I, Scott Thomas Reeves,
do solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will
that I will
support the Constitution
support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New
of
Jersey,
the State of New Jersey,
and I will bear
and I will bear
true faith
true faith
and allegiance
and allegiance
to the governments established
to the governments established
in this state
in this state
and the United States,
and the United States,
and under the authority
and under the authority
of the people,
of the people,
that I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly
and justly
perform all the duties
perform all the duties
of the office of
of the office of
Sergeant
Sergeant
in the Maplewood Police Department
in the Maplewood Police Department
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Sergeant.
Good job.
That's pretty much all I had to say, was just to get that first breath of fresh air out. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I want to thank the town council, Chief Semino, captains, lieutenants, sergeants, all my brothers and sisters in blue. I want to thank everyone for being here for me. Especially thank my family, everyone that came out to enjoy this occasion. And let's head on round two. I'm ready for the next chapter in my life here at the Maplewood Police Department. So let's make the magic happen. Thank you.
Okay, so those are the resolutions, and we're going to take a 5-minute break to give you a chance to go party. Thanks very much.
I'm still kind of freaking out that she calls my name first. I always get. I'll still be sex. Oh, Adam, that's your first tonight. Oh, Adam's Brown. Oh, yeah, let me. Okay. Let's sit right here. Why? No. You see.
We're going to get started again.
Why?
Before we do that,
How's he doing out there? It's getting him out?
it just takes a while. Okay, we're going to get started again. We are on item number 9, the public comment session. Is there anyone who would like to address the Township Committee? Oh, Mr. Mayor, could you switch that around?
Oh, sure. Oh, thank you. Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor and Ms. Leventhal.
Good evening.
For the record, I'm Deborah Collins, Director of Small Business Development and Affirmative Action for the County of Essex. And I have a couple of announcements this evening, but I'm so excited about your live streaming that I can't wait to report back to the president of the Freeholder Board and to the county executive. We have to get with the times. And speaking of getting with the times, on October 22nd, the Office of Small Business Development and Affirmative Action will present a workshop entitled Growing Your Business in the Digital Age. Very timely topic. LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, blogging, all of it, and how these particular tools can help business owners move their businesses forward. So if anyone's interested in attending, we still have some spaces available. That's Thursday, October 22nd, 10 a.m. to 12 noon at McClune's Boathouse Restaurant, of course.
Is there a cost?
There is no cost. It's absolutely free. However, because this is a particularly popular topic, we're asking people to call as soon as possible. It's, of course, first come, first served.
Okay.
And we will be serving refreshments as well. So that number to call is 973-621-2011. We have some wonderful people on our panel, experts in the field of just putting together websites, the whole night. It's going to be phenomenal, and we're looking forward to a robust turnout. So that's Thursday, October 22nd, 10 a.m. to 12 noon at McClune's Boathouse Restaurant, 973-621-2011. And the other announcement is just a reminder, actually, that Saturday, October 17th, is the Essex County Recycling Day for Computers and Electronics. We're accepting monitors, printers, fax machines, etc. However, we will not accept smoke detectors, carbon monoxide alarms, and commercial and large quantity users may not drop off items. So that's Saturday, October 17th, 9 a.m. to 3 o'clock p.m., 125 Fairview Avenue, next to the old hospital center in Cedar Grove, New Jersey. And these are the announcements. Are there any questions or concerns for the county?
No, but I just want to thank you for keeping in touch with me during the run-up to the hurricane. Thank you. It's good to have that communication. So we were prepared here, but it's nice to know we have the county working with us. So thank you.
You are very welcome. It's our pleasure. Have a good evening.
And thanks for voting for Maplewood's downtown.
Oh, absolutely. I was thrilled with the results, but I knew it would happen. Congratulations,
Thank you.
Maplewoodians.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the Township Committee? Okay, yes?
It'll be on later in the agenda.
I missed it.
It's on 4 Mountain Avenue.
Okay.
I had advised them that that someone should
Great.
appear.
Okay, terrific. Okay, we're going to close the first public comment period, and we're going to move into the Board of Health. We're not. Just name and address. Name and address.
Bev Sheehan, 482 Summit Avenue, Maplewood.
Can you get closer because?
Bev Sheehan, 482 Summit Avenue, Maplewood. I came to the meeting tonight because I saw Sandra's adjustments to the post office site. and I loved it. I think the post office was a total eyesore. I have no objections to doing something on the site, but what she has proposed is so much more in keeping with Maplewood than that design that I've been watching. I just thought it was lovely and perfect, and I hope that you guys will consider the adjustments to it. It fits in so much more to the village. I think it's great to have a new building in that spot, but the one that's proposed does not fit the town, and her eclectic view does. So I just wanted to, I don't do these meetings very often. Maybe this is my third, but I loved it. So I'm just here to say, I hope you guys will consider it. It just looks like our village. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else want to address the Township Committee? Okay, we're going to close the public hearing. We're going to go to our Board of Health meeting, our our monthly Board of Health meeting.
Does anybody need a packet? You need a packet?
No.
Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Law, 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by the mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2015 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2014, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Mr. Brownlee, Mayor DeLuca,
Here.
Ms. Leventhal.
Here.
Mr. Ryan, Mrs. Larrier.
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public, and whereas Section 7 provides that the Board of Health has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public in any meeting, and whereas desire the Maplewood Board of Health to comply with the provision of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be resolved by the Maplewood Board of Health, Township of Maplewood does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in the deliberations of the Board of Health by the public, except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observation of the action discussions of the Board of Health at all of its regular and special meetings.
So moved.
Second.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome to the October Board of Health meeting. You have received your minutes. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes. Where is he? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in the wrong seat. I can't see. Mr. Rowe, your report.
Yes, a few items. We are going to be working with the Orange Area Affordable Care Act sign-up program, and they're going to be coming for 7 Saturdays in November, December, and January to the libraries to sign up people for the Affordable Care Act. It was very successful last year, and so we hope to continue that this year. This month is flu shots. We'll be giving them on October 21st here at the Town Hall, and then on Saturday, October 24th, again here at the Town Hall. We have multiple education programs going on this month from St. Barnabas Hospital speakers, and it's really an excellent series of programs. The one this coming Thursday at noon at the community center is called Care After Cancer. And so I think it'd be helpful. A lot of people, we will be recording it for till it can be on local access television. And so I'm looking forward to hearing what the doctor talks about. Fourthly, I don't know if Ms. Leventhal has told us of our latest on our Maplewood Loves Wellness project, but the cookbooks are out.
Cookbooks are out, and those of our community who would like a cookbook, all you have to do is come to the Health and Harvest Fest on Saturday between 11 and 3, and you'll be able to get a copy of the new cookbook. In the meanwhile, I'm going to hand some out.
Are these Jersey-grown tomatoes?
I think so. So we got 1,000 copies, so we should have one for anyone who's interested. And I want to thank all the restaurants that participated and our graduate student who was the primary author of the cookbook. And it
Yes.
just turned out beautiful.
Yes, we had an intern, Mr. Rowe had an intern.
Yes.
An NYU student, and she kept us going on this.
Yeah, so it was a group effort, and it just, I'm very pleased with it. And I'd like the quote, the part I like the best is the quote from the chefs. So we tried to personalize it, and some of the chefs have interesting things to say.
Yes.
Just today, I got a letter, and I think that Mr. Manning forwarded it to the town committee concerning the Irvington health officer is leaving, and they are requesting that I, as Maplewood health officer, provide some health officer coverage for them. It would basically include, under New Jersey statute, you have to have a full-time health officer. And so I can fulfill that for them. There's also, they have contracts where they need to have a full-time health officer. And also, I'm sure there'll be situations where they may need to consult with me, or maybe even our nurses, on how to handle certain situations. We've done that before with Irvington. I've had a good working relationship with their health officer, and he's covered for me on vacation, and I've covered for him on vacation. And so Irvington's already started the process of looking for a new health officer. So hopefully this will just be for a couple of months. And, even though I'm not looking forward to an extra job, I'm happy to do it and help our neighboring town. And it's kind of a duty we all have to do sometimes, is help our neighbors.
Mr. Manning, what's your opinion on this?
Yeah, I spoke with the business administrator there who delivered the letter, and he basically said that this could all function here in Town Hall, that if they needed signatures, basically just to sign for things, and that seems perfectly appropriate in terms of helping our neighbors. I agree with Bob there. Mr. Rowe, I mean. Sorry.
Do we need to take any action? Yes.
Yeah, I think you should just pass a motion. This is to allow Mr. Rowe to function as the temporary health officer for Irvington on a perpetual mutual aid situation.
I remove that.
Oh, thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Manning. Mr. Rowe, we also received St. Hubert's report.
Yes. And a report from Furry Hearts.
And the report from Furry Hearts. I will tell you, and I don't think we have anyone here from Furry Hearts. I think you and I will need to sit down with Furry Hearts report. I'd like to see some more benchmark-worthy data in it, so that we can really be able to judge this. We're going to have a really good discussion about this November, I think, right? December, that's the first year, and we did talk to I believe it's going to go for the next 3 years, but we do need to reevaluate it every 3 years. The report is a good start, I would say. You all received the report?
Yes.
I believe it's a good start. I do think that it needs some fine tuning. So we'll sit down and try and do that.
Okay, I'll set up a meeting.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Rowe?
Yes. Mr. Rowe, you sent me an email about the Ivy Hill apartment storage containers here, the garbage.
Yes.
As this got resolved, I know it was recently You want me to send a letter or contact someone in Newark?
Yes, I think that may be helpful. I've contacted Newark Health Department, who would be my logical people to contact.
Have you done that yet?
Yes, I have, on 2 occasions, and they have put out a lot of rat bait. But I haven't seen any new dumpsters installed. The old dumpsters have holes in them and easily accessible to rats.
Okay.
This happens every couple of years, right?
Yes.
Maybe we need a trap neuter release.
Yeah.
For rats? Mhm, yeah. Any other questions for Mr. Rowe? At this time, we have our public comment segment. Anyone who would like to address the Board of Health, please come forward, give us your name and address. Seeing no one rushing up, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn?
Second.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Thank you very much. We're back on the main agenda. We're on item number 14, introduction of a new ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, item number 14, introduction of a new ordinance. Ordinance number 2797-15 is an ordinance to require applicants for an alcoholic beverage control commission place-to-place liquor license to provide notice to adjoining property owners within a 200-foot radius of the location of the property where the license is to be located. This ordinance will require applicants for an ABC place-to-place liquor license transfer to give adjoining property owners within 200 feet notice of the proposed location.
Ms. Leventhal?
Mr. Mayor, I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on October 10th, 2015.
Second.
Discussion, please call the roll.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Thank you. Next, introduction of a new ordinance, item 15.
Mayor, item 15, it's ordinance 2798-15. It's an ordinance to amend Chapter 271 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Zoning and Development Regulations. This ordinance will amend Section 271-52 by adding convenience store with fueling station as an exception to the requirement that only one principal use be permitted per lot.
Mr. Desiderio, you wrote us a memo on this. What are we doing here?
Yes, this is what we did when we did the last amendments. We created a bit of a conflict in our ordinances because we allowed a double use in terms of the gas station with a
Convenience store with a fueling station, right.
with a fueling station, and we didn't change the ordinance to allow two structures in those situations. So this corrects that deficiency.
And the two structures we're talking about are the store structure and
convenience store
the
and
canopy for the gas?
Correct.
And just by virtue of having those two structures, it's two primary structures.
Correct.
So this will allow that to happen.
This will allow that and make that allowed only with regard to that particular use.
Right. No other uses, just
Well,
convenience
there are
store.
some others that are.
Yeah, there
are some. This is an
no,
addition.
no new uses
Nothing
other than
new
this.
other than this one. That is correct.
Ms. Leventhal?
Mr. Mayor, I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on October 20th, 2015.
Second.
Any discussion? Let's call the roll.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Okay, next up is we have a presentation to the governing body from Paul Greigel. We're pretty close to 8:30. Good timing. We're going to need, why don't you come up and sit up here?
Yep, I'll move. Nothing personal, Paul.
All right, we understand.
Nothing personal.
We understand.
I'll stay. Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Evening.
Good evening. Yeah, just bring it close to you.
I think
The light's broken out.
Is it on?
There we go.
Okay.
Perfect.
So just to tee this up, we have two redevelopment areas on Springfield Avenue, redevelopment 1 and 3 rather. And the Economic Development Committee met with you and discussed what we might do differently there because we haven't had a robust response from developers or builders there. So you have taken a look at these existing standards and you have some recommendations. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. So go at it.
Okay, with that introduction, thank you. The Springfield Avenue redevelopment plan was adopted in 2009. So there has been some time that's passed since it was first put into place, and some activity has occurred there, most notably Walgreens. That's in the redevelopment area 3. So when you're trying to figure out where these are, 3 is between roughly Burnett and just west of Vermont Street, so across from Maple Crest Park. The other one, redevelopment area 1, where the Davies, or formerly Davies mixed-use building is located, is between Burnett and Boyden, so facing the Church of Latter-day Saints and the police station. So these are on the south side of the avenue, and in that area you have the old, I guess, jewelry exchange, the animal hospital, a number of buildings that have just been sitting there, unfortunately, not being redeveloped in accordance with this plan that was adopted in 2009. There was some discussion of this particular area in the master plan in 2011, so this isn't the first time this has been looked at. But in this go-around, I've dug in a little bit deeper and looked at the very specific language of the redevelopment plan to see what could be fixed to allow for development to occur by making, either removing restrictions that might be hindering developers from being interested in the area, or it might be too costly, but also keeping in place standards to protect the surrounding area. So we're not looking to take away all regulations, but really where can you make some surgical changes, if you will, to try to improve the development standards. So I'll jump into those momentarily, but really just some of the other issues we're dealing with along Springfield Ave. It's a long corridor, but the problem is a lot of the properties aren't very deep. In some cases, there are residential uses right nearby, and there are also a number of smaller lots. So developers would need to put together multiple parcels in the way the plan is written currently to allow for redevelopment. So really what I can go right into the changes, if you like, that I'm recommending at this point. The first overall change is to essentially take the very specific regulations in the plan and make them a little less specific, I guess, more open-ended, if you will. Right now, for example, retail is limited only to national retailers of a certain size. Residential is limited to a certain number of units. Heights are actually lower in terms of permitted heights in the redevelopment area than in the surrounding zones. That's actually the opposite of what normally happens. Typically, redevelopment plans are a little less restrictive, allow a little bigger height, more coverage, that type of thing. Right now, the highway business and pedestrian retail business zones actually are more open for business, if you will, allow bigger buildings, allow more types of uses in the area. So that's the first, sort of the broad way of looking at this. In addition, as far as parking requirements are concerned, for an area like Springfield Ave, where you have transit, you have people living nearby, you have buildings close together, it's almost a downtown type setting. The standards that are currently there are actually more appropriate in a highway type setting. They'd be better out in Route 22 in some cases, or just in an area where you don't have transit nearby, everyone needs to drive there. So really, I think it makes sense to lower those standards for the number of space that need to be provided in some cases. And just lastly, there's some other things in the plan that might scare away developers as far as the way it's framed. I won't get into the great details of this, but as far as the maps and charts, it's really a very thorough document, which is great, but it might be intimidating to someone that says, I just want to, buy a property over there and tear down the building, build a new one, or fix up the existing building, put a new use in there. It's a little daunting. So to try to, again, cut things out when possible and streamline the redevelopment plan. So unless you have any upfront questions.
Just on that, there's a good example of that. The animal hospital has been closed for a long time, and we have had entities interested in it. And because of the redevelopment zone, that's area 1 there, we have not been able to entertain those, or if they were to be entertained, they would be on a at-risk basis to the developer, because the way this would work is if there was a more appropriate development to the plan, we could give that, we designate a different developer for that space. So it has prevented us from dealing with lots by lots. We have another person right now that's interested in putting a restaurant up in that area across from the Mormon church there. And again, unless we're able to have a little flexibility here, that's going to be difficult to designate that person as a developer for that site.
Right. So again, that's kind of broadly speaking what we're looking at. So as far as specifics, as I mentioned, let's start with uses and what's permitted and what I would suggest you may want to consider for changes. Residential use, there's a cap on the number of units currently.
Are you on a page or anything? Or
let's see, if you look at the memo I submitted or...
yeah, the one you said,
so it was a
August
memo,
5th, right? August 3rd.
August 3rd. Okay, great. Yeah. I'm just going to go in order from there. So we're looking at the bottom of page 2 into page 3. So I'll present basically right in order. Okay, with regard to residential uses, there's a number of, there's limits on the number of units permitted in the zone currently. So I'm suggesting that you may want to take off the limits and instead let developers decide on a site-by-site basis if they can accommodate residential and required parking for it. I'll talk about this later. I think you should keep parking standards in place, maybe change them a bit. But that, again, if your site's too small and you can't fit residential, it's not going to go there. But if someone has a property that is appropriate, you have enough room to provide parking to meet all the other requirements, I don't think there's any reason you want to limit residential. But one related change would be to remove townhouses as a permitted use. I don't think that's an appropriate use on Springfield Ave. As far as generating more residents and school children in demand for services, there's plenty of single-family, two-family nearby. I think that multifamily that has generally lower impacts, that fits above stores, that type of thing, is more appropriate in the context of these two redevelopment areas. So I'd suggest taking out townhouses as permitted. And lastly, with regard to multifamily, in any location, they're permitted should be permitted on the upper floors of buildings. So it's like you see currently where you have a storefront with residential above. That's the idea within the area. One related change, though, is in redevelopment area 1, so going down the hill towards Boyden. Right now, residential is not permitted on the ground floor. You need to have retail down there. Quite frankly, when you look at it, it's not the best location for retail, perhaps. There's a lot of competition around either further east or where there might be some more development going on further west where you have development in Maplewood to allow retail, but also if a developer wants to put in a different type of use that's active. In other words, an office space for the building, a gym, laundry, there's something so it looks like retail, that it's still a vibrant space, but that you're not saying build a storefront and you can't rent it out because no one wants to rent, basically the rents that you have to charge. It's a mismatch between what it would cost for someone to rent the space and a developer to build it. So why not allow for something that looks like a storefront but actually is related to the use upstairs? I would suggest in redevelopment area 3, though, closer to Maple Crest Park, keeping the requirement to have retail. In that area, I think it's desirable across from the park where you have sort of a node next to Walgreens to still have active retail uses on the ground floor. But really, otherwise, you're looking across a whole long area to have everyone have retail. Just again, I think you're better off focusing it closer to the park where you have a node of activity.
Go ahead.
Sorry. With the new development going into PSE&G, would it be reasonable to allow the two kinds of businesses you just spoke about, the retail and some office, throughout both districts?
It's permitted. Okay, yeah, good question. Yes, to clarify, the regulations are proposed to allow it still in the area, but right now the issue is it's mandated on ground floor.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone wanted to buy a parcel, a few doors up from there, there's that little hot dog or whatever, the place in the corner. If you go up a few doors from there, there's some older buildings. You'd have to be retail there only in that location on the ground floor. You couldn't put anything other than that. So residential lobbies and a gym or something if you wanted to. So the market will decide. I mean, I guess if you want to build retail, it's still permitted. And maybe when PSCG is redeveloped, maybe other things go on, there will be a market for it, and it's not to preclude it, but just not to that part of the avenue, not to mandate it.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Sure. Okay. One other restriction with regard to use that I'm suggesting should be loosened a bit is with regard to restaurants. The language is very specific about family restaurants. There's a bit broader language in the existing pedestrian retail business zone that talks about eat-in and/or takeout restaurants, but not including fast food. So we know that's a concern, but again, the family restaurant might be a little bit too restrictive. I mean, I'm not sure what it means, to be honest, at this point in time, but it's something that if you just make the language a little bit more permissive, that it's not fast food, but it can be almost anything else. That's what we're proposing in the redevelopment areas. And lastly, with regard to retail-related uses, there's a minimum floor area requirement now to have, I think it's 10,000 square feet or larger, like the Walgreens. Again, that frankly is just not realistic on some of these smaller properties. You would have to have someone, as the mayor said, buy up all the various parcels together as opposed to taking one. So I think that's a pretty easy restriction to lift and would make a lot of sense. There's also some lists of prohibited uses that I think could be relaxed. Again, offices, banks, personal services, schools are listed as explicitly prohibited in the redevelopment area. So I think it makes sense to maybe step back from that to allow those types of uses to be permitted in this area. So again, a landlord doesn't have their hands tied and say, I can only do a retail store or a restaurant and nothing else. I think the overall goal, really stepping back a bit, is just to have activity, to have people coming there, to have an investment in the area. Yes?
I just have remind me what we decided as far as in the other zones and offices on the ground floor. I know that Springfield Avenue Partnership had a little bit of a concern about that.
We're going to talk about that, but in our discussion, but they support professional offices on the second floor, but not on the first floor, but not regular offices on the ground floor.
Right.
So there's a difference. The things you're talking about is financial institutions, commercial, I'm sorry, medical, insurance. Those are all considered either retail or professional offices.
Right. Well, currently they're prohibited in the plan, so this would be, they would fit more into that
So that
category.
would
Those categories.
come under the scope of what, it's consistent with what they wanted.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, we're dealing with a pretty small area here, so it's within this one, the two areas, 3 and 1, to kind of do things maybe a little bit differently where appropriate. Okay, turning towards bulk regulations, so we're on page 3 here. One of the key recommendations in the master plan in 2011 was to have a uniform building height in these two redevelopment areas. Right now, it's 24 feet if you do one type of building, it's 35 feet in other cases, up to 42 feet in some cases. I think it makes sense to take the PRB zone's height of 4 stories and 50 feet to allow that across the board. Now, again, recognizing that if you can't provide the parking or you can't fit the number of units in there, someone's not just going to build 4 stories. Or for that matter, it just may not make sense from a market point of view. But I don't see a reason to unduly restrict heights if there's the ability for a developer to construct a building. And again, these are only in these two particular areas. And actually it matches what the PRB allows anyway. So really elsewhere on the avenue, you could have the similar height. Likewise, with regard to building coverage and lot coverage, these are actually, just so it's clear, building coverage is the size of a building, how much space is left over besides the walls and everything else. Lot coverage is everything, sidewalks, driveways, any other pavement, to increase both of those standards, again, to match what you have in the other zones on the avenue. So you allow a little more room for buildings, maybe with less parking. You don't need to have as much space set aside outside the building. So again, to go to 80% building coverage and 100% maximum lot coverage. This is consistent with, downtown in the village, you have that type of thing, and elsewhere on Springfield Ave, you have a similar type condition. And just lastly, on bulk standards, since I'm recommending removing the caps on the number of residential units, you do need some kind of limitation. So for example, the PSC&G site plan has minimum unit sizes, which essentially become the density. So I'd suggest adding those in. So 700 square feet for 1 bedrooms, 900 square feet for 2 bedrooms. So at least it's not, you can just build as many units as you want. They need to be of a certain size and fit within the building. Okay, moving on to parking. We're on page 4 at this point. As I mentioned at the outset, the parking standard is really just inconsistent with what you're looking to do in this part of town. And so I would suggest reducing the residential standards from what are now statewide, the residential site improvement standards that apply here or out in Hunterdon County, to take the parking down to 1.5 spaces per dwelling unit, which is what you have in the PSC&G site. I think that would make sense. It's the same type of setting here. You have transit nearby, you got the jitney, you got stores and services nearby in the park. So you'd think that folks would maybe not need as many cars in this type of setting. Likewise, with regard to retail, as I said, the standards are pretty high, so I would suggest reducing them to a lower amount, so it's one space for every 400 square feet in redevelopment area 1, so down the hill towards Boyden Avenue. And actually, in the area closer to Maplecrest Park, not to have a minimum standard, a minimum amount of space required. In other words, let a developer figure out if they think they can get by without parking on site and use on-street spaces, the lot across the street by Maplecrest Park, or people walking from nearby. Don't require someone to build asphalt and to build spaces. It's really much, it's in keeping with current planning trends of this type, that if you basically unbundle the parking standard from the building, it allows for the developers to figure out exactly what makes sense. So it's only in this one section near where Walgreens is. I'm suggesting this should be allowed.
Where Maplewood Tire is on the corner there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a very small area we're dealing with.
It's a good example because we've had people look at that and they want to do mixed use, but they can't fit the parking for both residential and commercial.
Yeah, so it's a little bit radical, to be honest, but I think if any place is going to do something like this, Maplewood would, is the type of place to do it.
Right.
So that's, that might be the biggest stretch here I'd suggest in the plan, but again, in the end, you'd have to figure there's still a requirement for retail, for residential upstairs. So if someone wants to build a mixed-use building, they'll still need to provide for their residents. It's just that you wouldn't have to double count and build additional spaces for the storefronts, that type of thing. And just last changes of what I mentioned before about just trying to simplify things, some of the maps and text throughout the document, just to clean up anything that might be a little bit unwieldy or might scare some developers away. Really, in closing, I think, again, the changes, really, when you put them together, do make the plan a bit more developer-friendly. I think if your objective here is to have development interest, to have sites that have been sitting fallow for some time get redeveloped, you need to do something. And I think reducing the parking clearly will help with that, increasing the building height, changing the uses, all are in keeping with that objective. But I think there still are adequate standards to ensure that building's not out of character with the area, it's not too much, and it will actually be a complement what exists around there as opposed to be a negative. So with that.
Any questions? I'm sure, there's a lot to think about here. Yeah. What we're going to do is have the Economic Development Committee look at this. They have a meeting next week. And then we'll come back with some, we'll discuss it again and come back with some recommendations.
Great.
Take a look at your recommendations, see what we agree with, what we might not, and then come back and recommend to the Township Committee how to move forward on this. But I do think we want to do something because doing nothing is preventing that area from, particularly as the interest becomes more there with the PSE&G, doing nothing prevents anything from happening there. It's just too restrictive. People come in here and they're told, you got to meet these square footage or you got to do this parking, and it's not going to happen. So, okay. Well, thank you very much.
Good.
And I'm sure we'll get back to you.
Very good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can we go to 6?
Yes, but I just want to remind you that the ordinance that we introduced here on the dual use for the one lot, that has to go.
Two structures, yes.
Yeah, that has to go to the planning board.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
I've already spoken to Adele, and
Okay.
I'll get her a memo tomorrow, and she's been speaking to the chairman.
Since we brought it up, I did have a question about that. I apologize, I should have asked it.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, could you go to the microphone? I'm having trouble.
Sorry. We're allowed to make, oh, I'm sorry, this is not on that ordinance, this is on a different one, but since I started, I'll go ahead. On the ordinance for the Alcohol Beverage Control Commission, we're allowed to have more stringent rules.
I don't see any, we had this question. I didn't see anything that prohibited us from doing that. So yes,
Oh, I didn't understand that word you just said.
I'm sorry.
Yes, the answer is yes. There's nothing that prohibits us from
I
doing
don't
that.
see anything that suggests that you cannot.
Okay.
Okay, so to that extent, we will do it. And generally, you are able to put in whatever regulations a local ABC wants, which are some of the regulations that you put in about no small liquor being sold, no single cans of beer, et cetera.
Right.
So I don't see why this is anything different than that.
Okay, I think it's good, I just didn't want any challenges to it.
Well, it may still, but that's what we do here.
Yes, okay.
When we passed the ordinance about the convenience store on first reading, we said that it would, the hearing would be on October 20th.
Yes.
Will the planning board be
Yes.
dealing with this at?
13th, I believe.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on discussion items. We're going to go to item number 6 because we have someone here. This is demolition of 4 Mountain Avenue. Mr. Desiderio,
Come on up and
how would you suggest we do this? We have,
yeah, I'll lay out what I know. I received a memo from Mr. Mittermeier on September 30th with regard to the property at 4 Mountain Avenue. Please find attached notices sent to Mr. Claytis Smith and others pertaining to the subject property. I've been holding off on a demolition of the building as there has been reported that Mr. Michael Yablonsky has the intentions of acquiring the property to rehab it. To date, all I have is his comment that this may occur. I would prefer that the building be rehabbed as opposed to demolition. Please assist me in securing proper notice and support that there is a sale pending to advise the owner. As a side note, in the area, they have advised me that they're investigating property. There are loans on the property. He checked and he could not find, it is not on our foreclosure list. We get the list of foreclosed properties. And there were 2 letters, one dated May 27, 2015, and one dated February 9th, 2015, to Mr. Smith advising him about the property. And I believe Mr. Rowe has suggested he did not get responses to those. There was also a police report, an incident report.
Mr. Mittermeier, you mean?
Mr.
Mr. Mittermeier.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Mr. Mittermeier. I get my Bobs confused. On August the 17th, 2015, there's a police report. Upon arrival, officers observed the residence to be vacant and that a rear window leading to the deck had been removed. Officers conducted an interior check of the residence with negative findings. Officers observed numerous items throughout the residence that appeared to have been left behind by the prior homeowner. Officers then spoke to the caller, who reported that a white male wearing black clothing with a beard walking northbound along the railroad tracks parallel to the residence. Mike lost sight of the male, etc. So there was a break-in. The Maplewood Police Department had to arrive and again secure the building. This has been an ongoing issue with regard to this property. So what I did was I had notification and I notified 3 individuals with regard to this and the fact that I would be recommending, based on Mr. Mittermeier's recommendation, that the property be demolished. And Mr. Hayes, Mr. Hayes? Mr. Hayes.
Smith.
Is Mr. Hayes here?
No, I'm Mike Yablonsky.
Okay. So Mr. Hayes is the attorney, okay, to whom I wrote, and Mr. Hayes then responded indicating that he represented Mr. Smith and that I'm in receipt of your letter, and I would recommend the town committee that it authorize demolition of the house, hold off doing that because there was a short sale and a foreclosure, and that there was a potential buyer for the property. I also received copies of what appear to be papers with regard to a short sale. I suggested to Mr. Hayes that the issue we have is that short sales can take an inordinately long period of time to get done, that there's no guarantee with regard to it, and the building continues to be an eyesore, et cetera. And I suggested that the parties might come before you and give some explanation so that it might make a determination, it might make some impact on how you ultimately decide this. So that's the background.
Thank you. So, Mr. Smith, you want to fill us in on where we're at the moment?
Just like he stated, I'm doing a short sale. The property,
Mr. Smith, excuse me, you were the heir of the owner, is that correct?
yes,
Okay, the owner had passed away,
right,
and you're his son?
yes,
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we had that, okay?
right. So I don't live there anymore. I didn't even know about the break-in. I did come and see and say, oh, my window's out. I live in New York. So once in a while, I'll come and check on it, you know, as I'm going through the sale. At this point, being maintained, you know, the outside of the property is being maintained by Mike Yablonsky. We're in the middle of a short sale. We're trying to sell it. We can't sell it if it's torn down. Mike has done numerous properties in the area. He's fixed them up. He's sold them. I would rather you guys speak to Mike as well. What he does, you know, as far as rehabilitation of properties, but I no longer live there. But I do come back and check on it and stuff.
Mr. Yablonsky, what's your role with this property?
Hi, I'm Mike Yablonsky. I am the contract buyer for this property. I have the properties under contract between Mr. Smith and myself. We've presented the contract and all the associated supporting documentations to the loan servicer. They're in the process of reviewing that. They're ordering a BPO, and once they get the BPO back, they'll make a broker price opinion. It's part of the short sale process. When you make a contract offer on a house, the bank will send out a professional to assess the value of the property in its current state, see whether or not we can come to an agreement on a price. So either they'll accept the contract or they'll counteroffer the contract, as the case may be. So we expect to have that BPO prepared shortly now, as soon as they finish the initial review of the documents. And so that's where we are. So Mr. Hayes, Cletus's attorney, had copies of those documents and forwarded them on to the town attorney to let you know that we are actually in the middle of this process. The bank does have all the documents they need at the present time, and they're reviewing those. They'll get the BPO done, and they should let us know shortly whether or not they'll accept the contract or counter it. As far as myself, the only thing I'd like to say is I've been involved in rehabilitating and restoring houses to the neighborhood of Maplewood for a number of years. I currently have 3 properties in Maplewood, one of which was vacant for well over 2 years, which I recently acquired, and I'll be returning that to the community. I have another property which I did last year, which is vacant for over 4 years on Oakview Avenue, and we restored that property and increased the ratables for the town. So, we're trying, my companies that do this work are really focusing on these rundown, in poor condition, vacant properties and bringing them back, making them homes for people who move here to Maplewood. And I'd like the opportunity to try and do that with this property. If you guys can table the motion until we get a decision from the bank, we'd appreciate that.
I'm sure you can understand that the people who live on the block are concerned about it being vacant. And I would gather from some of the issues that we've heard about is that the condition of the property hasn't always been kept up. So how, if we're going forward, you're asking us to go forward, how do we make sure that that is not a recurring problem?
Right, well, at this point, this should all happen fairly quickly. We should have an idea from the bank within the next few weeks as to whether or not we're going to be able to complete this transaction. So we expect that indication shortly. As far as maintaining the property, I know it's been in disrepair for a while. In order to obtain these properties, one of the big challenges is actually being able to find that Mr. Smith, who's now living in Brooklyn, and how to get a hold of him and talk to him about how it can possibly transfer this property and do a short sale and get him out of his tough situation and get this property rehabilitated and back. I mean, that took over a year just to do that step. But now that we've, found each other and, trying to get this thing done, I think things will move more quickly. At Mr. Mittermeier's request, I have been hiring people to go over there and cut the grass and try and make sure the outside's a little more tidy than an overgrown forest. So,
So is that work completed yet? The cutting of the grass in the forest?
Oh, yeah, it gets done. The grass gets done regularly now. Yeah. Typically, that's done by the bank servicer. For some reason on this property, they weren't doing it.
There's nothing typical about these houses, to be honest.
Right.
We have a bunch of them that we have agents who swear to us that they're the ones to be contacted if there's a problem. They're the ones to get service if we're going to issue a citation. But they don't do the work. So I guess you have to give us confidence that going forward, this is going to be, you use the word soon and shortly, and I understand those words, but they're not as comforting to the other folks on Mountain Avenue who have been told, who, said that they've had to live with this for some time. So how do we get some specificity here?
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to try and get a decision from this bank, which I should be able to get an indication on within the next few weeks. When is the next meeting? First week of the next month?
October 20th is our next meeting.
October 20th, the next meeting? I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get a decision from them, being that that's only 2 weeks away.
What's after that, November 4th?
Yes.
Wednesday,
I
November
appreciate
4th?
the opportunity to come back before you and, keep you regularly informed about what's going on with acquiring this property.
Mrs. Larrier?
Specifically also, not just the grass, but it's going to be very disconcerting to the neighbors if people are breaking into the home. So when someone comes to check on the grass, they need to double check that the house is secured.
Right.
Because we can't really have people in and out of the house. That's just dangerous.
Well, at this point, even Mr. Smith can't get in and out of the house because the servicer has it secured. I mean, they've changed the locks and when the banks find these properties vacant, they step in and secure them to protect their investment, and it even keeps us out from inside the house.
We don't have that information. Do you have that information?
On who the servicer is?
Yeah, who should be maintaining the property? We do not have that information. We get a list of.
I don't have that information. I've just been doing it because Francisco and Mr. Minamar asked me to do it.
See, that's part of the problem. We do not have this on our foreclosure list, and under the law presently, when they put them on the foreclosure list, they have to give us an agent who's going to maintain and be responsible for the property.
Right, this is
Whatever
not
reason-
on a foreclosure list.
No, it's not.
It's not in foreclosure at the moment.
It's not in foreclosure.
No, it's not.
But who put the locks on?
Or
The SPS.
the servicer is called Select Portfolio Servicing.
Okay.
And whoever,
Who hired
they
them?
hire people, like you see the MSM trucks parked up on Springfield Avenue by Tuscan or, I mean, those are companies, there are several of them around. I don't know which company they're using on this particular property.
Basically Chase.
Chase was the one who held the mortgage?
Yeah, Chase and SPS took over the servicing.
Gotcha.
Okay.
I would,
Go ahead.
I would certainly like to know that while you're checking on the house, if you see a broken window, you take care of it. Because that's where the danger is going to come in.
Right.
With
well,
people breaking into the house, and they're going to break into a window regardless of whether there's a fresh, new, shiny lock on the door.
Right.
And that's the concern.
Okay,
or
well, I
part
could
of the
check on these
concern.
regularly, and the procedure would be, I personally wouldn't be entitled to do that because I have no ownership interest in the property. I would have to call Mr. Smith, we would have to call the bank and have the bank go over and take care of it because,
11th thought.
I viewed the property today, and the foliage is a mess. There is a window boarded up with plain wood. It's not painted the color of the house or anything like that.
that's in the rear?
It's on the rear,
On the
facing
deck.
the railroad.
Yeah, I think that's the window that was mentioned in the police report.
Okay. So I'm concerned, like the mayor is, in terms of these timelines. So you're saying that you would give us an update November 4th?
Yeah, and if I have an update by the 20th, I'd be more than happy to come by and just walk in on the meeting.
Once, and if and once you are the owner of the property, how long do you anticipate turning it around?
These projects usually take about 6 months, 6 to 8 months.
And you're not overwhelmed with projects or anything now that would cause a delay or nothing?
No.
Okay.
Mr. Smith, how do we get in touch with you?
Well, I can give you guys my phone number if you want.
Yeah.
Do you guys have my email? Do you guys have any record of this?
Why don't you, as opposed to announcing it on the.
Yeah, don't
TV,
announce it here.
Okay, why don't you'll give it to me and I'll have it, I'll give it to Mr. Jablonski. Does Mr. Minnemeyer have your contact information?
Yes, he does. And on the email from Mr. Hayes, I believe that the initial email had both Cladis's and my address on it.
I believe you are correct. But you know what, gentlemen, offline, and I'll get your phone numbers, okay? Okay. So is the governing body inclined to go along with the request, or do you wish to do something different?
Well, let me ask you this. Based on our conversation now, what are you guys going to do to address some of the concerns that you heard tonight? I mean, what are you going to do between now and November 4th? Is somebody going to contact PS and have them go
Yeah,
out there?
actually, I've been in contact with SBS a lot over the past couple of days, and over the past 3 to 4 weeks since we initially submitted the short sale package, to get some sort of indication from them, which I was able to have forwarded on to Mr. Desiderio, that they do have the package now, and that they are, in fact, reviewing it and will be giving us an answer in the near future. So, we're pretty regular contact with the lender.
I just want to draw your attention to one thing, if I may, because I did read this, and I agree. It's certainly an acknowledgement of the receipt. But if you
Very general informational letter that they send out when they receive a
appreciate
package.
that, but paragraph 2 is interesting because it says you are responsible for all property maintenance and expenses of your property until closing of an approved short sale. So while you may suggest that they're supposed to be responsible, this is not what this letter says. So I'm just drawing that to your attention.
I understand.
Okay, so I'm still at a loss here. So tomorrow, if we send an inspector out there and they say your grass needs to be cut, who do we call?
Call me.
And what role do you have? You're a contract purchaser. You're not, you can't go on. Excuse me?
I have the contract to purchase property. I have to call Mr. Smith, get his permission to have the lawn cut and get a cut, which I do have your permission.
Why don't we just call Mr. Smith? You're the owner of the property still, right?
Yes.
Okay, so if we have to write a ticket, a summons, we would write it against you.
Yes, you would.
Okay. So we don't need you as no offense, but we don't need you as a middle person. Right?
That's fine, Your Honor.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, unless you want us to give you both a ticket.
No, it's just that I'm local and he's in New York, so if you need something done out here, it's going to come to me eventually.
Well, that may be. I mean, we can let you know both, but I think we have to let the property owner know. Yes. Unless we have something that says, legally that you're the agent for him, and it doesn't sound like that.
No, I'm not.
Right. Okay. All right. So let's get. Is somebody you're gonna get his stuff? Okay. If you can go with Mr. Carrera in the back and
So we're gonna
offline, and we'll see you back here November 4th, if not sooner.
If not sooner.
Okay.
Richardson, you carry this to
Thank you.
November 4th, please?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you, Mr. Jablonski.
Just give him your number. Okay, thanks, guys. Appreciate you coming in. Okay.
Okay. We're back. Item number 1, cell towers. And this is the request from the property owner on the corner of Springfield and Prospect, 1881, 1883 Springfield Avenue, to enter into a contract with Verizon to install, I guess they're cell towers or cell repeaters on the building, on the face of the building, or partially on the face of the building and above the building, but they would be on the town right-of-way. When we talked about this last time, there was not support. I think one person was supportive of doing this. The rest of us did not feel comfortable doing this. The owner has contacted me, gave me the renderings, which I've shown to you, which I've provided to you, and also gave some other places where these towers are installed, or these repeaters are installed. I brought this issue to the board of the Springfield Avenue Partnership to get their guidance. I think generally I would say that they were more inclined to allow it as opposed to not, as long as there were some design standards that would include minimum size building, so that not every building, this happens to be a 4-story building. They felt that the higher building would mitigate against these things sticking out. They talked about limits to concentration, that we'd allow only the airspace for these things within so much feet. And we're not regulating cell towers, we're regulating.
Well, right, you're not right.
So we say within 1,000 feet from one another. So, you could say 4-story buildings and they can't be within 1,000 feet of an existing, something like that.
I was thinking you were actually saying that they couldn't extend further out than a certain distance either.
Well, that would be 2. That would be, there's minimal extension from the building. There was a concern about the health impacts of people who lived in the higher floors, although I think that's impossible to deal with because the
There's actually
FCC.
federal regulations that suggest that, I mean, you could agree to this or not agree to it.
Right.
But you can't regulate cell towers on the basis of the health issue, and there's federal regulations on that.
And then they also suggested, as we see in the picture, that they be camouflaged, and these are the same color of the building, of the brick of the building. So, or fairly close, as opposed to something that would be, against it. And lastly, there was a concern about, is it possible that allowing these would make a variance required, but I guess not. If you have a 50-foot and you allow these, does that kick off? But cell towers are allowed to go up there, right?
Yeah, but he would still have to comply with all the other variants required. He's simply asking us, the township, is whether or not you can put him in the easement. If he needs other variances, he needs Springfield
That would be
Avenue.
their
He
responsibility.
needs Springfield Avenue Partnership approval.
Right.
Whatever else he needs, he still has to get. This is just simply whether or not you are inclined to allow him to encroach into the right of way.
So we don't have design standards for this.
No, we don't.
So we'd have to negotiate with them to do that, to create those.
Well, in this particular instance, yes, and then I guess on a go-forward basis,
Right.
you'd have to do that, or you could do it and tell him he has to wait, whichever way you wanted to go.
Right. I think it would be with their guidance because they know these things. We could say it has to be a certain color, and that may not be possible. So we'd want to have some dialogue with them. But the bottom line is whether or not we're even interested in having this conversation or not. So unless 2 more of us are willing to have the conversation and entertain this, then it's, continues to be a no.
I'm inclined to say no. Actually, the only thing that makes me yield a little bit on that is that the partnership, that they were more inclined to go with it than to go against it. And since I think for that, we sometimes take their lead.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm just gonna, I was not at the meeting, but I think one of the things that the partnership probably is considering is the fact that it's a revenue generator for property owners. And that's obviously something that they're concerned about and is a motivation for these companies to do this. So, I mean, that's probably part of it, so.
That was exactly why. I think that they felt that things were tough with some of the rentals up there, that this would be a way to help a property owner bring in a little more revenue, get some more out of the building. That, as long as it was high enough and really didn't impact the streetscape, it wasn't something that they would rule out of hand. Now, of course, anything that we do would be applicable across town unless we said that they could we'd only entertain this in a special improvement district.
Well, that creates another issue, because you have 2 special improvement districts.
Well, we could say the Springfield Avenue
Yeah,
Special
or you
Improvement
could do it in
District.
a highway, in a particular zone, I guess you could do it as well, so.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think you actually have to do that, because this is a request for an encroachment. So I'm not sure, while you may want to have some standards amongst yourselves with regard to that, I think it's an ad hoc, case-by-case situation. So I don't think you can, I don't think you necessarily have to, there's no place to codify this. You would not pass an ordinance, there's no review standards, et cetera. So you have one request to now do this. Now, you may do it on the basis of what conditions you impose on this property and make that your standard with regard to others. So if you got a 2-story building or a 1-story building, you could say, no, we're not going to do that. And the only reason we did it was because this was 4 stories. But it's not, we're not going to codify this as a standard anywhere.
Right, and we wouldn't, since we are giving permission on an ad hoc basis to use our airspace, this would not be something that you would put into partnership or the alliance's approval because they can't approve.
Correct. They can't approve.
Granting of airspace.
Now, they can otherwise approve the design.
Right.
Okay, and that could go into their design review standards, but whether you give them the initial threshold authorization to do it or not is entirely up to you.
And I'm sorry.
Go ahead. And then,
So each time Verizon or another company wants to do this, they need to, each case has to come before the governing body.
If in fact there is an encroachment
Right,
into the
that's what I
public
meant.
right of way.
Yes.
Let's assume that there was an alleyway that was between the buildings and they could do it on that side. Well, they wouldn't necessarily have to do it. In this instance, I think you've got an encroachment both on Springfield Avenue and on Prospect Street is my recollection, correct? Yeah, so they would have to come to you with regard to this.
in one way of doing this is if we're totally against it, then there's no point in even having a meeting. But if we're willing to consider it based on the input from the Springfield Avenue Partnership, we could set up a meeting with our folks, the partnership, the building owner, and maybe Verizon, and just talk this out and see what we can come up with.
Yeah, and I can represent to you that I've spoken to Mr. Skolnick, and he and Verizon would be pleased to come either here or to wherever you suggested to move forward with the discussion.
I have one question.
Yes.
So this is not similar to signs, for instance. So we could say yes here and no 6 doors up and not run afoul of any fairness.
The answer is yes. What I'm suggesting to you is that you can't. There has to be a rational basis, okay, for it. So if the next property was 2 stories, okay, then I think there's a rational basis to turning it down. Same thing as if it's next door or whatever. So, but again, this is an issue of encroachment. You might find that one particular intersection, for whatever reasons, it doesn't work there. Maybe there's other things on the roof or whatever. So, yeah, I think that it would be on a case-by-case basis. Did I answer your question?
That's legal? Like,
yes.
Because we can't say, yeah, you can put a sign here, you can't put a sign there.
This
I don't want to run the same.
What you're basically saying is there an equal protection argument? And the answer is there could be if you irrationally refused someone else's request. So if you had a request similar to this request on a 4-story building and they otherwise provided all the information, you could not necessarily turn it down. That is correct.
And yet,
go ahead.
And yet we might want to, depending on the location of.
And as long as there was a rational basis for doing that, you could do it.
So you could say, well, this one abuts a park, and
That's
that would be
correct.
rational?
Correct.
Yeah, you could say, for example, there's a 3-story building across from Maple Crest Park, across from the gazebo. I guess you could argue that because the park has a larger line of sight from being in the park, but that's not an appropriate building. There's the one on Prospect in Springfield because, people are walking or driving and rarely walking with their heads up.
Joe's been spending a lot of time in his house.
So should we pursue this or not?
Well, when you say pursue means.
Have a meeting
have
and
the
see if.
Conversation, it's
right.
not a definite yes, it just means looking into seeing if
Right.
we can say yes, and
Yeah.
I'm in favor of that.
I am too, of having at least a conversation and seeing where we go with it.
I am also,
Okay.
again, based on the partnership.
Okay. All right. Okay, let's see, we'll go on to number 2, jitney and parking fees. And we, in our finance committee, we were looking at the revenue for various services, and in 2013, we came up with a suggested revenue formula for total revenue from the jitney passes and the per-ride cash fares, and the jitney portion of the combo passes should equal at least 35% of the annual jitney expenses. And from the numbers that we've gotten and have been looking at, it looks like we've met that standard right now. It looks like jitney revenue is about 40% of what the jitney costs to operate. Those are all year to date. We're going to take another look at this on an annual basis because there may be some the way in which we collect passes might influence this. So we're going to look at it. And but at the moment, there's no recommendation to change the jitney or the parking rates for 2016.
In the distance, I hear a collective cheer.
I don't know, maybe tomorrow morning, I'm sure all those jitney riders who are watching us. And the next is the Springfield Avenue zoning changes. And this is an item that just needs some cleaning up. We passed a set of ordinances back in July and August dealing with zoning changes. And one of the key recommendations from the planning board was that we had made a mistake by allowing offices, not professional offices, but regular offices on the street level. Because the ordinance that we passed, we took out that. So right now, a permitted principal use is to allow offices on the street level. The planning board is recommending that we go back in and restore that restriction, and the Springfield Avenue Partnership, after some significant discussion about it, came to the same conclusion of with the planning board. And they're asking us to go in and in the pedestrian retail business zone, restore offices, but not on the street level. And when we changed this, we had moved at that time so that we can move this forward, and we said that we would come back in October and take a look at this. So I would recommend that we move on that. The second cleanup is when we adopted another parallel ordinance, 2794, we added the definition of a fueling station, and we made it a conditional use. And Mr. Mittermeier has pointed out that in our zoning regulations, we have not included language in there in the conditional use section that identify the conditions for a fueling station. There are conditions for a service station, but not for a fueling station. So the suggestion is to go in there into the zoning and development regulations and make the conditions for a fueling station similar to what the conditions are for a service station. I'm going to keep going unless I hear people saying.
And just to reiterate the first part that you were talking about with the offices, that's not in contradiction to what Mr. Greigel was saying.
That's correct. And just when we were talking about this, we identified two businesses really that have offices on the street level that are not professional offices. And one is Riccardi's Paints. The corporate headquarters is on the first floor, street level. And the other is a contractor that's down across from, I think it's between Ohio and Oregon, or maybe Oregon and the Dunkin' Donuts. But anyway, there's a construction company that has its corporate headquarters there. And in going forward, those would not be permitted.
They'll be grandfathered.
But they'll be grandfathered, yes. Anything there now would be grandfathered. But a real estate, a doctor's office, anything that's a professional office would be allowed to be located there.
A service station includes services beyond fuel.
Correct. So what we would have to do is when we go into 2750, the conditional uses, I'm sorry,
271.
271, 7110, when we go in there, there would be things that could be applicable to both, like minimum lot size, minimum front yard setback. But then, for example, it says, talks about repair work. Well, in a fueling station, no repair work can take place. So we'll go in and take a look at each of these and work with Mr. Mittermeier to come up with language that would make these applicable either both or one or the other. The planning board also raised the question as to whether or not we intended to limit service stations. This is a different use, service stations, to the HB district, which is a highway business. And under current regulations, a service station can be in any of the three districts: neighborhood business, retail business, or highway business. As I pointed out, for example, the Shell station on Parker and Valley is in a neighborhood business. Toomey's no longer sells gas, but is an RB district. Delta on Valley is an RB district. So, and quite interestingly,
What's Donnell Road?
Sunoco.
No, Donnell Road. Is there a service?
On Springfield, that's highway business.
No, on Donnell Road, by the train station.
I don't know what that is.
That's,
Why?
Isn't there still a service station?
No, I'm saying the one, that's the Delta.
That's
a
No.
neighborhood business.
No.
We're talking about different places.
Next to the railroad station.
No, that's not a service.
No, it's not servicing garage.
That's an automobile repair station.
Oh, what's the difference?
Okay.
That's a different.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That doesn't
what's the
sell
difference?
gas.
Delta?
No.
No,
What he's
this,
talking about.
next to the fire department to the right as you face it.
No.
Ah,
No,
yes.
no,
That's
no.
Vegas.
What?
That's the one,
The other side.
Oh,
Yeah,
the other.
next
I would
to
withdraw the
the,
second.
Clausen building. the Clausen.
next to the station
Ah,
house.
yes.
That building there, they have
Okay.
a car repair. They don't sell gas anymore. They used to have the pumps out there.
Right.
Really?
Yes. But that is, since you asked, office business.
Okay, so that's a non,
Actually, that's the park zone now.
that's a
Yes.
non-conforming use.
That's not a conforming use.
But he's grandfathered.
Yes. So anything that's in place by the time that when we pass this is grandfathered. So, my suggestion is that we don't open this up and start messing around with everything, because these things are in place and we're going to create a lot of impression that we're trying to shut these down, and we're not trying to shut them down. So I think when we created the definition of fueling station, we have a responsibility to limit that to the highway business, because I don't think we want gas stations all over the place or fueling stations all over. But I think on this other one, I would just recommend we leave it as the current regulations are. Then lastly, on the zoning map, when we changed the pedestrian retail down near, across from Dunkin' Donuts, there's, used to be the Springfield Liquor there, there's the Animal Hospital. In back of that, the Township Committee in the past changed Marie Place lots to highway business also, in anticipation of a larger development. Since we're not going to have that with the pedestrian retail, Mr. Malavasi is suggesting we go back and change the zoning on Marie Place to make it either residential or commercial, not highway business. Because that would essentially mean that somebody could open a gas station in that parking lot behind the gas station.
No, that would be a problem.
That would be a big problem. That would be a problem. So if there's, we
Is there
can move
anything
forward.
there that would keep us from just saying it's residential?
There's a commercial lot there, you know, the office building there?
Mm-hmm.
So we have to take a look, because if we make that lot residential, does that impinge on the ability of the commercial operation, the office building there?
Right. But they'd be grandfathered.
But if they wanted to do something in the future, they'd have to go for a variance as opposed to an automatic, if they want to do something with the parking lot.
You're talking about lot 377
On Milburn.
on Milburn Avenue?
Yeah.
You know, your notes, Okay.
Those parking
Mr.
lots are
Malavasi
on-
was suggesting putting it in the OB zone.
No, I'm suggesting we go back to, we talked about this in planning and engineering. I'm suggesting we go back to Malavasi and figure out lot by lot where it's the most appropriate.
Okay.
What's the most appropriate designation?
But any designation other than you could put a gas station there,
Right. Other than highway business,
especially a 24-hour one.
especially. Okay, so we'll move forward with that and
Let me ask you a question, if I may. Number one in your memo is obviously easy to do. Number three in your memo is also obviously easy to do. Number two is going to take a little more time and reflection to make sure that we get it right. Do you want to move 1 and 3 separately, or do you want to wait and do them all at the same time?
why don't we wait, because it's,
Rather than go to the planning board once and that'll be done. Okay, that's fine.
well, we don't have to go to the planning board on one because
We do
this is
not.
their recommendation to us.
Exactly. So
So we're just adopting their recommendation.
you want to just do that one, or you want to wait?
Well, who do we have to notice? We have to notice people who are in these districts?
No.
Well, then we can do 1.
Do 1.
Yeah, and 3, yeah.
1 and
Well,
3.
3 has to go to planning board, so let's not do that. Let's do 1.
Okay.
I think we're all very clear about that, to not allow offices on the street level. Once again. Okay, next up is Maplewood Village Alliance has requested once again that we permit temporary weather door entrances. These are those canvas doors that are in front of the entrance that are up there in the wintertime. We worked out a deal with them last year and we negotiated it. They have to come to the clerk, they have to get approval by the construction official, they have to give us a sketch, there has to be a minimum of 4 feet of clear walking space. The door has to swing a certain way, or ways, they have to swing, have to be swingers. You have to remove the snow. There's a maintenance requirement. So anyway, this expired on March 31st, 2015. So if we want to continue this, we have 2 choices. One is to do it as a ordinance and make it permanent, or the other is to do it as a resolution and just extend it into 2016.
Remind me where we left with the cafe enclosures?
That's not being, that's not this.
No, I know that's not this.
They're coming, the
They're
Village
gonna- they're
Alliance is
supposed to
coming
come
back and
back.
make a presentation.
I'm wondering if we do a resolution, if we do an ordinance now, maybe we would, and we wind up approving those, maybe we would want to just fold it into the same thing. So I would say maybe we want to do the resolution now temporarily, since we are still considering the cafe enclosures.
So a resolution, this was a resolution 18-15.
And when do you want it to expire?
March 31st, 2016. We didn't have any problem, right, Ms. Fritzen?
No.
Okay.
Okay, next up is the loading zone space in Rickleton parking lot in relation to the post office redevelopment. There has been discussion at the planning board level, or the planning board rather, about having a loading zone established on, in the parking lot. And there was a question as to whether or not we would allow it. And Mr. Desiderio, you have a suggestion of how we might go forward with this?
Yes, Mayor. Based on discussion, I would suggest that you allow me or authorize me to enter into negotiations with the developer with regard to that. Since it will be on township property, it will require that the township come to an agreement. Let me discuss it with the developer. Let's see specifically what the proposal is. I'll negotiate it and then bring it back to you for your consideration and final approval. It's my understanding, based on discussion, that this may be a condition of any approvals that the planning board may give. So there's no urgency to it in the sense of that, other than the fact that the developer will have to satisfy that condition before they can move forward and get building permits and the like, if in fact that's where we wind up. So I will initiate that if you so authorize me.
Questions, comments? We get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Just call the roll. Short as it is.
Blarier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. We have a resolution listed on the agenda that I blew by. That's Resolution 200-15.
Just thinking about it.
Mr. Manning, you've informed us that we do not have sufficient number of people to vote on this. Is that correct?
That is correct. You need 2/3 of all governing body members voting
Isn't that-
affirmatively. So that would be 4.
You need 4 people.
2/3.
So this is we had just to explain what it is, we had a fire on our ambulance. We had the ambulance went out on a run, came back, they parked it. The firefighters were upstairs, heard some crackling downstairs and went down and saw that the front of the ambulance was on fire. They were able to escape. They put the fire out. This is one of those classics, the firehouse is on fire. So, but we lost the ambulance. It's a complete loss. And we're now using our reserve ambulance, but it's not one that we want to maintain. We want to get a new ambulance to move forward and protect the citizens. So we do have a backup from Union, and we need to, in order to purchase a new ambulance, we need to do an emergency resolution and purchase the ambulance. And we just don't have the people power tonight, so we're going to deal with it on October 20th. And
Yes.
everything will continue to stay in place, and we can assure the residents that we're still providing first-class first aid service.
Responses to their,
Right.
yes,
Maybe we can borrow theirs.
maybe, well,
Already suggested that.
I'm sorry?
I suggested that.
Okay.
all right.
Consent agenda. Can we get a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
And this is the consent agenda with the exception of item number 200-15. Is that correct, Mayor?
200's not on there.
No, the 200 is off. It's a
It's off
separate.
completely. It's
Yes.
off already. Okay.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Blarier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. We're now at our second public comment period. Is there anyone who would like to address the Township Committee?
Hi, David Humer, 26 Nelson Place. In the interest of time, I'll just ask my question. I'll skip the context. Does the township have any current or proposed plans to remediate or improve the sewer and water infrastructure in Maplewood Village?
Township has a plan to work with a developer to do that, yes. Yes.
Is that a public information?
Yeah, it's part of the redevelopers agreement.
So the text of the redevelopment agreement is the basis for the sewer and water infrastructure? Is that what you're saying? I just want to be clear about it.
No, you asked me, does the town have a plan to deal with that, right?
To remediate or improve the sewer and water infrastructure?
Right.
Yes.
And what I'm saying is that in the, and I'm pretty sure, redevelopment agreement, there's a statement there about a cost share between the developer and the town to install a new pipe,
Sanitary sewer.
sanitary sewer.
In the redevelopment plan?
Yes.
It was the basis of the original purport, why it's an area in need of rehabilitation. I'll relook at the redevelopment plan because the text I saw was simply the obligation of the developer to figure out a sewer connection, and if he couldn't get the easement for the township to allow him to hook into Maplewood Avenue. There's
Well,
additional material?
You know, the town has to get the easement too. So the town can't just do it. Even if we did it independently of anyone, the town has to get an easement. So it can only happen if any party gets an easement. Now, we have contacted the owners and we're working to try to get those easements and move it forward.
That's to connect to Baker Street, not to connect to Maplewood Avenue. There's two proposed
Correct.
connections in the redevelopment plan.
Well, let's back up.
Right.
Because, you know, the property, the post office property has a right to tie into Maplewood Avenue.
Okay.
Okay? So that's a given.
Right.
What we're trying to do is to divert their discharge and discharge north of that to a line that goes through the parking lots.
Right. That's in the redevelopment plan, absolutely. My question was simply on whether there is something proposed to actually remediate, as opposed to getting an easement and tying in another line, since the area had been designated as being in need of rehabilitation because of water and sewer infrastructure needs, whether the township has anything proposed to actually remediate the water and sewer infrastructure needs.
So if the question is, if we don't tie it into Baker Street through the parking lots, if we're going to remediate the problem, I don't think we have discussed that because, you know what the problem is. There's the citron that the waste has to go above. Do you know what the problem is or not?
Siphon.
Siphon, yeah. Anyway, there's the waste. It's not a pipe that goes straight. It has to go up and down.
Okay.
So all the discussion has been to avoid doing that because it is a pretty significant job. So that is why we're talking about removing that waste from north of the post office and the post office to Baker Street. If that doesn't happen for some reason, we would have to go back and look at the problem of that siphon.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes.
Sandra Pagan, 15 Osborne Terrace. I just had two questions, kind of like requests for information. I was wondering if there is a feasibility study that was done for this project and where we can find that information. Sorry, post office project.
There's a redevelopment plan for the site. And there's a study that was done prior to that that talks about its applicability under the state land use laws for areas in need of rehabilitation. That's what exists. If you're asking if there's a feasibility of, will stores survive or people live there? No.
Right, I was asking a feasibility study that would say bulk requirements, what the town would require, what would fit in.
Yeah, that's in the redevelopment plan.
All the size.
That's in the redevelopment plan.
You mean the plan, the redevelopment plan for this project?
Yeah, there's a redevelopment plan for this project.
But that is not a feasibility study. That just says, this is what we want. But a feasibility study analyzes the possibilities and explores all the different options and says why each option is better than the other. Was a feasibility study done?
I'm not exactly sure I understand what you're asking about a feasibility study. So if you're asking if there's a document that has bulk requirements, the answer is yes. If you're asking if there's a feasibility study to say those bulk requirements should be 50 feet or 44 feet or something like that, no.
Right.
But there were a series of public meetings in which those items were discussed. And there were hearings by both the Township Committee and the Planning Board in which bulk standards and design standards all were discussed.
And is there anywhere to find that information?
The Planning Board minutes, Township Committee minutes, there's nothing I don't think there's anything that is in one document.
Okay.
But actually, I think in the redevelopment plan, there are references to dates of meetings, and there might be information you can get there. So you might, and you can find the adoption date of both the Township Committee and the Planning Board, and you can look at them. So I think you can get those things, and those things are on our website, right? The town's website. So those minutes and stuff.
That reminds me, I tried to look for the latest redevelopment plan, and it's very hard for me to find which is the date and which are the amendments and which is valid, not valid, and which is overwritten. Is it what is the final date, July 17th or something? And then revisions written in one page somewhere else?
No.
It's not easy, I couldn't
No,
really
no,
find
no.
it.
The redevelopment plan is 40 pages?
Right, no, the revisions. There's some amendments?
No.
Or it's, so what is?
Hasn't
which
been
is-
amended. Hasn't been amended.
I thought it was
Discussed
revised.
amending them.
The redevelopment
and
plan has not
decided
been
not to.
So the valid redevelopment plan is, what date is the date of the latest?
It
Well,
could
I
be-
have it in my folder. Let me see
Yeah.
if it's that one. I have this document that says July 16th, 2013.
Yes.
Oh, because there were comments online in the municipal site that were saying, that had some changes. For example, in height, it said that there was, let me see. So those are comments that we have to, that we don't need to look at?
They were not adopted.
Oh, okay.
Changes were not adopted.
So this is the final,
Yes.
right? Because there were heights that, it says in this document, 45 feet maximum from average, and in those comments, it said 53. That's not valid.
That's correct. No, there's never been a change.
Okay. Yeah, that wasn't very clear, but thank you.
Anyone else want to address the Township Committee? Okay. Close the second public comment period. Administrator reports, Mr. Manning?
Yes, my usual, although it's coming to an end, is the farmer's market is open on Mondays from 2 to 7, corner of Springfield Avenue in Indiana, in the Indiana Street parking lot. And they are going to go into November. So please get out there. There's fall vegetables,
They
et
still
cetera.
have corn on the cob.
Wow, okay. So, that. So
it?
please, no, there's one other thing. So as part of this going forward to replace our ambulance that was totally destroyed, we joined a co-op, a national co-op, which is called the Houston Galveston Co-op, because they sell ambulances. They have gone out to bid for them, et cetera. So we can buy off of this co-op without having to bid this. So I'm asking that the township allow us through a motion to legally advertise through a public notice that we are going to consider buying an ambulance off of this co-op. We are required by law, if we're going to do a national co-op, to do this. We have to do it for 10 days prior to moving forward, and we also have to notify the co-op. So I'm asking if you would give us, through a motion, the direction to notice the intent to award a contract under a national cooperative purchasing agreement.
Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll. I moved you, not you.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. If we're buying an ambulance from Galveston, we better get that country music permission.
Yeah,
That's all it's going to play.
That's all they're going to play on the way up. But that's all that I have to report. If there's anything.
Any questions for Mr. Manning? Mr.
Thank you.
Desiderio?
I have two items, Mayor. One, I need an approval for you to discharge a mortgage under the Affordable Housing Program. It's something that had been paid off. I neglected to have you sign it at the time, and we've been contacted by the title company. So I'd ask that you authorize the mayor to execute and Ms. Fritzen to execute the discharge of mortgage. It has been paid off.
So just so, since we have everyone watching us now streaming, and there's been some conversation about this. This is the Maplewood Affordable Housing Program.
Yes, sir.
This is our required by the state that we do a certain amount of rehabilitation of existing housing here. So our program is a program in which we will do up to $20,000 of repairs of a homeowner or even a tenant with the landlord's agreement. And if the person lives there for 10 years, the loan, the $20,000 is forgotten, correct?
Yeah, and it actually, it goes down, after 10 years, it is forgiven. But over the course of time, the amount that they have to pay back without interest, it reduces. So for the first 6 years, they have to pay back 100%, 7th year, 80%, 8th year, 60%, 9th year, 40%, 10th year, 20%.
Okay.
And at the end of 10 years, then it's forgiven.
So the ones that we're doing now, we've provided these resources and have these repairs done 10 years ago, at least.
Well, this particular one, no, not this particular one. This particular one was sold, and they paid us back. Actually, they paid us back the whole $20,000. In this instance, I just neglected to have you sign the discharge of mortgage, so it's still encumbering the property.
But we have had people
right,
who have run the 10-year course, correct?
Absolutely. We've had a number of them.
And in this instance, when the money comes back to us, we replenish the Affordable Housing Loan Fund
I haven't seen any
or trust fund?
back to us. I haven't seen any money come back to us yet, but yes, that would be.
That would be the
it would
normal
go back
procedure,
into
right?
our pot of money.
And then we would work with community grants and planning to find another applicant to get that money back out.
Correct.
So the money cycles.
Yeah, this particular one, I'm just showing Mr. Manning the check, actually was made payable to the Maplewood Affordable Housing Fund. So it definitely went into that, and then it's recycled, and whatever money is budgeted goes into that as well, and the program is continuing.
Okay, great. Anybody have any questions on this? Would you get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Ms. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you.
The second item is the Greenway. There have been discussions to try to move forward with the Greenway in Maplewood. The engineer had done a drawing for me. I suggest to you that the key principal property is the Hammond Map building with regard to it. I sent the proposed drawing to the owner of Hammond Map. He called me, we spoke. He told me that he's in favor of the concept. He had some issues with regard to what Mr. Malavasi had drawn. Probably what Mr. Manning would have drawn also.
We have issues with Mr. Manning.
But in this instance, it was Mr. Malavasi. I suggested that maybe a meeting would be appropriate so that they could walk the property and do that. I've sent an email to that effect. Mr. Malavasi said that he is available to do that. So I'm leaving it up to Mr. Malavasi, and I don't know, Mayor, if you're going to be involved in it or Ms. Leventhal is going to be
Ms.
involved.
Leventhal and I had this conversation on Sunday, and we're going to do a walkthrough, and it would be great because we could talk to Kerry Heller there.
Yeah, he's, like I said, he was very cooperative, very responsive. It's just a question of he's got to get a comfort level that it's not going to impact his business, his parking, trucks, et cetera. So,
okay.
All right.
This is for the easement that we need to.
I'm sorry. I can't
get that through.
Right.
Pardon me?
You got to use your microphone.
I'm sorry, this is so we can get that through, because we're asking.
Yeah, and then once he
That an
gets-
easement? Is that what we're trying to
I'm
get?
still.
Yes.
Is it an
Okay.
easement?
Yes, it's.
Yes.
Well, yeah, it'll be an easement or a license. I'm not sure it'll be an easement. It might be a license, but we'll get something that will protect the township, correct? We haven't gotten that far, but once we get that, then we can go to the other properties that are there who have a smaller piece, but we thought we have to get the biggest one first, and once we get that, then we could go from there.
Okay. Anything else for Mr. Desiderio? Ms. Fritzen?
Okay, next Tuesday is the last day for voter registration, and my office will be open until 9 p.m. straight through. On Tuesday, October 13th, you can register to vote up till 9:00 p.m. Invitations and emails, blasts have gone out to the various groups for the volunteer dinner, including the boards and committees, emergency services, and all of our additional committees. And that is going to be on Tuesday, October 27th at the Woodland from 6 to 8. Also, every October, we send information out to volunteers for their interest in continuing. and also to the chairs of each board and committee as to the attendance and participation level of those people. We have 2 date changes, just as a reminder again for November. We'll be meeting on Wednesday and Monday in November. Wednesday, November 4th, the day after Election Day, and on the Monday, November 17th.
And why are we moving it on to the 17th?
Because of the League of Municipalities Convention, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that's all that I have at the moment.
Okay, great. Anything from Ms. Fritzen?
Yes, absentee ballots, how do you get that and when do you have to
Yes,
do that by?
okay, absentee ballots, you can get them at the Township Clerk's office, and they have to be received 7 days before Election Day, so there's plenty of time for absentee ballots to be filled out and mailed in.
It's 10 o'clock and we got the other 2 people here. We couldn't be here longer, so.
Could be.
But now we're at our reports. That could take hours. Mrs. Larrier.
I will not. Nothing.
All right.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, I have to tell you that the Yankees are losing. Bottom of the 6th, 2-0. But I do have good news.
I said, you think that I don't know that?
Well, top of the 6th, they're still losing the bottom. But of course, they're up at bat, so.
I have my connections.
Okay, so the good news is that I'd like to, the cookbook that we introduced at the Board of Health meeting, I'd like to thank the Columbia High School PEC grant. This is Judy LoBianco. They sponsored half the cost of it. And it was wonderful to have that cash come in. This was a $4,000 project, so it's a huge undertaking in that respect. Also, Overlook Atlantic Health System contributed $2,000 also. As I had said earlier, the cookbook will be given out to people who participate in the Health and Harvest Fest, and I have some announcements here about it. It's this Saturday from 11 to 3 over by the gazebo on Springfield Avenue, right next to the library and Maplecrest Park. Hope to see you all there. A while back, we were going to, I don't think we did, look at whether or not we wanted to have not-for-profits and the town businesses on our website. I don't know where that went, but I did get approached by the Elks at an event that the Green Team had there on Saturday. They were wonderful hosts. Asking if that is something that the town would consider. So I'm sort of like bringing it back to see, did we make a decision, or did that not?
To have
The not-for-profits listed on our that service Maplewood listed on our website, and separately businesses.
If you're talking about as a link to them, we have like popular sites that people might want to do, like the Village of South Orange or Essex County.
No, these would be non-governmental.
And they would be,
It'd be like the.
they would have a web page,
Well, they may or may not. I would just
a
want.
link.
Like to the Elks, to the Lions.
The Community Coalition, the.
Yeah, yes,
The
we
SIDS.
we have a links page, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
People just have to,
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
you know,
Okay.
but they have to ask, you know, I mean, we have to know who is requesting to be linked from our page. We're not just going to put them on if they don't ask us. If you have people that have asked, would you just let us know through an email?
I'd like to see the Communications Committee decide if everybody that is servicing Maplewood should be on there.
Yeah, I just don't know everybody who is servicing Maplewood. is the only thing. And Caesar, Mr. Correa may not know everyone who's servicing. We don't want to, we don't want anyone to take offense. So
Okay, well, let's
we're
get on as
willing.
many as we can. When we
Okay.
see folks, let's ask them, do they want to be on?
Okay.
And
Perfectly fine.
I think we should also consider our businesses, if they would like to be linked. Most town websites do have that.
I don't know about the business.
No?
No, not to the business. They may list the businesses,
Yeah.
but not
Oh,
their
I'm,
links.
right, okay. So they list the business, the address, and the phone number.
But if we link to the 2 special improvement districts,
They have.
they have a list. You know what? It's there's a lot of change.
Keep up with that.
Yeah, so if we, because
Okay.
the 2 business improvement districts in the chamber, they are better at maintaining that because they know the ins
All
and
right, good.
outs.
So let's,
Then we
Make
would
sure
we
we
would have a
have
lot
those
of dead
3.
information on ours.
And I would mention that I've been on township websites that do that and looked for businesses that you get that this page cannot be found when you hit the link. So is, I think, labor intensive too.
yeah, you're right. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's it? That's it.
I know you. Okay, I have a few items. One is that the Mayor's Council, the Rollway River watershed, we've made some great strides in getting allocations in the various federal budget years. They are requesting another $5,000 from us. I think one more would work as part of the consortium. They are pursuing the Orange Reservoir as a solution to the downstream flooding. They still say that we will get some benefit out of it, but certainly our flow will be much better if their flow is better, because what we've had is problems where the west and east merge in Milburn and Springfield, and then that backs us up here. So one thing we'll be talking about for the 2016 budget is putting another $5,000 for the consortium. I'm happy to announce that we are moving forward with our Irvington Avenue redevelopment project. Essex County is the contract agency. They received based on the proposal that we put together in our work with them, we've received $850,000 for this project, and the county is about to enter into a contract with a design firm, and we will be working with them. We still need about $600,000 more to accomplish everything, but the good part is that they are using our plan that we've done together as the template for renovating the area. So that's good news. I met with the board of, or the resident board of Winchester Gardens, and we talked about some issues that they have and ways in which we can boost communication. You can take some of these and maybe pass them around. One thing that you'll see is they've started this, or they're now doing this newsletter, and they would like information from the town on town services. I think that we need to do a better job of getting information to them and letting them know what services we have. And so this could be a way of doing that. And the other thing we talked about is if they have people that want to sit on boards and committees, that let us know, because they have a lot of different skills there. So they did this article about the Township of Maplewood, and they talked about the work we've done with them at the library. We also talked, and I think we can repeat it, Mr. Manning is just reminding our health department and recreation department to keep in contact with them. It's very nice to bring them. I know when we had the Mandala project, they did send the bus over. It wasn't as well attended, but at least those are the kinds of things we need to continue to do over and over again. Want to just let you know that yesterday afternoon we had a Maplewood Arts and Cultural Summit. It was well attended, about 40 people. And we're talking about revitalizing the Arts Council and taking a look at ways in which we can do more coordination. One of your neighbors was there who did the garden thing, so he was very helpful. And we talked about being more inclusive and looking at underserved populations, and including, we talked about Winchester Gardens, doing performances at Winchester Gardens and bringing services to them. So that was a good step. And I don't know if I mentioned yet that we did win Downtown Showdown.
I heard that somewhere.
So I'm going to keep mentioning that until I get tired of it, and that may be never. But we did take a picture with them and with New Jersey Monthly, and we will be profiled in the November edition, which should come out in a couple weeks. And then it'll be in the hard copy of the magazine, and certainly we will be using it. So it was a great victory and well-deserved for Maplewood. And I think that is it. We meet again on the 20th of October here at home. Thank you very much.
Do we need a motion?
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Hit that button. Thank you.